horror fans. Yes, Thanksgiving has already passed. So has Christmas, and so is New Year's. But better late than never for this review. Wish I could have got to it sooner, but it is what it is. So let's get into the IMDb plot and then talk about this one. After a Black Friday riot ends in tragedy, a mysterious Thanksgiving-inspired killer terrorizes Plymouth, Massachusetts, the birthplace of the infamous holiday. All right. Um, so yeah, fairly new one. I'm sure lots of you have already seen it, but I'll still keep it fairly spoiler free. And I guess there's maybe a thing or two to kind of hold it. It is a slasher movie, so you horror fans know kind of what to expect. And I guess one of the biggest things to hold back is the killer, so I won't give that away. But yeah, I guess it's interesting. We don't think we have that many Thanksgiving horror movies, so it's good to see an addition. And I think this one will be a good rewatch for those looking for a Thanksgiving horror movie for years to come. And maybe if you don't catch it this year, maybe next year for around Thanksgiving is a good one to swing in there. But yeah, slasher movie definitely. And it's got a lot of the usual stuff. We got a group of young people, we got a killer, and the killer wants to have their revenge, I guess, and he's going to chase them around town and pick them off one by one. And definitely they have their eyes set on one or two to save towards the end, and we have that. So a lot of the usual stuff here. Lots. This is definitely as I always say, certain movies are my movies and certain movies aren't my movies, and this is definitely my movie. Really enjoyed this one. And I know I said it on Twitter. I might have said it in another review, but it seems like we've gotten a fair amount of slasher movies recently, and I know there's some that I've seen that I have not reviewed. I know there's another one coming out called Founders Day soon. I saw that via festival already, and that's another slasher. And there's a couple of others, like I said, that I've seen that I haven't reviewed for not necessarily because they were bad, just because I couldn't squeeze them in there. And then there are some that I have reviewed, and it is good to see that there's been a good flow of them coming. And I know there's other ones that might end up like on Amazon or whatever that I start to watch and I'm like, I just can't. And I have to turn it off, or I just don't pay attention. I let it roll and I just let it be. But there's been some of at least decent quality and at least giving it a good shot. But this one I really enjoyed. I'll tell you, if you don't see anything, or you don't, maybe you're not totally interested in watching this movie, you got to at least watch the opening. It is Black Friday. The beginning starts on a Black Friday, and we have a typical store that maybe like sort of like a Walmart, maybe small, a little smaller. But I guess the big store in town is there, and people are lined up outside and going crazy, and they want in, and they're ready to shop, and are even getting rowdy amongst themselves. So for all those times you see on TV where Black Friday sales end in craziness, yeah, this is gonna be it. And apparently the group of young people that this movie's gonna follow, one of them's got the ends on it. I think their family owns it, and so forth. So they kind of sneak into the store or get in the store before it technically opens. And some people in the crowd see this happening and are not too happy with it. And even though the police are there, and even though even the managers are outside trying to calm the crowd decides it's going to push its way all the way to the door, and even eventually into the store before the store technically opens. And this causes a mass chaos scene. People are trampled, people are fighting. There will be some deaths, there will be some blood. Maybe, I guess if I complain about anything, there were some good deaths, some good, people getting knocked around and stuff. That was fun. It maybe wanted a little bit more blood out of it. I realized it's a store and whatever, and it wasn't necessarily when the killer was there. But, maybe a little bit more blood in that scene is the only thing I can complain about. But it was definitely a fun scene and a great way to open the movie. It was just utter chaos and, just some fun craziness. It kind of reminded, this is done by Eli Roth, and it kind of reminded me of when he did Piranha, and towards the end of the movie where just the piranhas go nuts and there's a bunch of people and the piranhas are just attacking everybody, and some people are fighting back and other people are just getting ripped apart, and like I said, that was also a fun scene, had plenty of blood, so I enjoyed the hell out of that. If you would have just thrown some of that blood into this scene, I would have just enjoyed this even more. But it was fantastic. Once this scene was over, I was hooked. I was I obviously there's most of the movie still to come, but yeah, I was already celebrating the movie because of that. That was just a lot of fun to watch. That craziness, but yeah, soon after that event, the movie moves a year later, and the killer is born, I guess, in that time, and it is leading up to the same time of year, another Thanksgiving, another Black Friday, and the killer has made themselves known and starts picking off people, one by one, and there are some good kills. I say, I guess the out for the killer, was okay. I guess what you might expect for a Thanksgiving killer, kind of like a pilgrim. I wouldn't say too scary looking. I guess they tried to put a hint of scare in it. But, it looked kind of more like a mascot that, it's just gone wrong. But yeah, so not terribly scary on the serial killer costume, but, they're gonna do some damage. There's some good kills. I think, it's going to be a little bit of a mix, maybe some that we've kind of seen before. And then there's a couple of interesting ones. I believe there was one on a trampoline that was pretty interesting. If I got my movie straight, I'm pretty sure that happened in this one. But yeah, he does have an axe, and an axe to grind, and they will use that. But yeah, I think it's a good mix. I think they're gonna give you, maybe a couple of kills that maybe you haven't seen or haven't seen done that way, and then you're gonna get a couple of the ones that aren't so good. So, or not that they're not good, but we've kind of seen before. So I think there was a decent mix there. Usually when we go into these kind of movies, we get that we feel like we've seen a lot. Whenever I see something new, I definitely applaud it. New and it works. New that you can believe it, and new that it kind of fits what's going on here. I guess the one thing I was I was thinking about who as you're watching the movie, of course you're thinking of who the killer is, and watching sometimes the pilgrim going around. I'm like, this person didn't just, I don't know, just didn't look, big and powerful and whatever. So you're kind of wondering, who this person is. Um, and can they be pulling off, everything they could? I don't know. Maybe it was the costume. I don't know. I guess, there is some fear when someone's in a costume and you're just kind of like, what are you? And obviously, if they're coming at you with an axe or some other weapon, obviously there's stuff to be scared of. But, if the pilgrim was just there unarmed, whatever, I don't know that I'd necessarily be afraid of them unless they were just completely out of place, of course, like if it's, summertime and there's a pilgrim there, and you're in a dark alley, you may wonder, but, otherwise, I don't know. But, I guess I don't know, it didn't, the killer didn't seem that intimidating, so I don't know, whatever, but they pulled it off. They pulled off the kills. Um, I had a guess to who the killer was, and I was pretty much right, and I guess if that's kind of one fault in the movie, I think a lot of horror fans are going to figure out who the killer is. I'm not going to say much more, but for A, B, or C reason, I think that it's there to be seen. And, I don't know if they wanted it to be that obvious or not. But I could comment a little bit more, but then I'm going to give it away, and I don't want to. For those that have not seen it, I will just say that it is a little more obvious than I would have hoped. The aforementioned movie that I said, Founders Day, is a little bit more complicated than this. And I don't know. It just, I guess if there's anything to complain about, that's, I guess, what I would complain about. Otherwise than that, like I said, I enjoyed it. I've always, well, not always, as I previously stated, but I usually enjoy slashers. This one I really did. I wish, and I said it in my top 10 review, that I wish I could have done this review before I did that, but unfortunately I couldn't. And Thanksgiving was actually the last movie I squeezed in there before I did my top 10 horror list for 2023. And if you watch that, I said 2003 a million times, so I got it right this time. But this movie, just before I give away the amount of pools of blood here, this movie did make my top 10. So, you could swing over to that and see where that landed. I'm not going to tell you where it did. But it is good to catch a movie kind of, late in the ball game there and kind of squeeze it in. I know I caught a few other ones that I'm glad I did, even though they may not have made my top 10, but I was able to squeeze them in before. But this was, literally the last movie that I saw that I considered for my top 10 of 2023. Like I said in that, I still missed a couple, and hope that here in the new year at some point I will be able to catch up with a couple that I definitely do want to see. But with that, and knowing that it made my top 10, you obviously know that it scored a good high pools of blood here, and I'm giving it 4.5 pools of blood. Really, really enjoyed it. The blood, the opening scene, like I said, got me. I was sold on it with the opening scene. I would have been thoroughly disappointed if the movie was really, really bad after that. But that opening scene really set the stage for me, and I'm sometimes movies can kind of start off on a good note like that, and it is kind of go down the drain. But I'm glad it didn't. Some worthy kills in this one. And that I'm always looking for the blood and the guts and that kind of thing. So I'm glad it had that. And there's going to be a sequel to it too. So, I have a feeling, there was something going on at the credits. I don't know if it was something really quick or something a little bit longer. I'm having a memory blank right now, and I don't remember, but I think there was something around there. Or at least something at the end to kind of make you think. that this is not a horror, and it is. And I will say that sometimes these movies I don't get to see in the theater, so once they have a good run in the theater, they already announced. I forgot what other movie they had already announced there was a sequel to. And, I get kind of disappointed because I haven't seen the movie yet. And then knowing that there's a sequel kind of gives me a little bit of expectation of what happens at the end. Um, so I guess I was a little disappointed to know that I'm happy that there's a sequel at the end of the day now that I've seen this movie. But I was a little disappointed that I knew that before I watched it, if that makes any sense. But I will definitely be on the lookout for part two and looking forward to that. Maybe the Thanksgiving Killer will come back a couple of more Thanksgivings. I'm not sure when they have part two planned, but apparently there will be one. But I will be interested, and hopefully Eli Roth does it again. I know some people are fans and some people are not. To me, this is definitely a good version of him when he can get down and bloody, and doesn't have to get too complicated with the story here. So, 4.5 pools of blood. Of course, that is out of 5, so definitely high up there. And if you haven't seen my top 10 horror movies of 2023, you can definitely swing to that on the channel and see where this movie landed there. That might kind of give you a clue of where it landed. But if you want to know exactly, swing over to that video and check that out. So speaking of that, horrorsquarereviews.blogspot.com is where you can find all of my reviews written and on video. But obviously, if you're just interested in the video reviews, you can stay here, like, subscribe, and do all those things that everybody wants you to do. If not, no worries, no problem. It's okay. I thank you for at least spending a couple of seconds here with me on this video or any others, including the shorts, which I encourage you to check out. Try to have some fun there and also give you a little bit of information depending on what it is, courtesy of Promote Horror, and Twitter, Facebook information down below as well. Reach out to me there. We can talk about this movie, other movies, other holiday movies, horror movies that you like. If you've seen any good ones that just in the season that just passed, feel free to let me know. And also in the comment section, let me know what you thought of this movie and any other the holiday horror movies that you might have seen this past holidays. And with that, I guess I'll catch you in the next review, horror fans.